Time for some more first impressions, guys. Two from Arabiyat Prestige and two from Paris Corner. So let's talk about them. Let's start with the two fragrances from the brand of Paris Corner that are featured in today's video. Now, one of them has been, around for quite a while, nothing new, but the other one is part of their brand new releases, part of the Mule line, which includes a total of three fragrances: Mocha Pletini, Mocha Cognac Blaze, and now Mocha Moscow Mule. This is the latest one that I got in my collection. All of them are cloning scents from the brand of Kilian, the original scents from the brand of by Kilian. The newest one is a clone of Kilian's Blue Moon Ginger Dash. Now, it comes in a really nice looking bottle, just like the other three members of the Moch line. I really like this one. This one has a sort of a frosted finish and it's a really nice looking bottle. The presentation also is quite nice. The whole box is also pretty nice. You get magnetic edges all around. A very nice presentation. Show the spray in action of this fragrance. It has a pressurized atomizer and it's working really nicely. And in fact, I'm wearing this fragrance today. And this is a very interesting take on the original DNA. It's not a one-to-one clone, at least not by my first impressions. This fragrance opens up quite citrusy, quite fresh. There's quite a bit of a strong lemon note in here, a bit of a gingery freshness as well. There's some mintiness in this fragrance. All around, it's a very bright and very fresh opening. On the dry down, I cannot talk too much about the dry down because I've been wearing this for the past couple of hours, but the dry down is a little bit musky. There's an alcohol note in here, a vodka note to be more precise, but it's not super strong, to be honest. And also there's maybe a hint of some woodiness somewhere in the background, but it's very light. All around, it's a very interesting take. It's not a one-to-one clone to the original fragrance, at least again for my when it comes to my first impressions. This feels maybe more citrusy compared to the original one, feels less boozy compared to the original one. I expected this one to actually have a stronger a vodka note in here, a stronger boozy note. It's more faint, more light than I expected. And it's quite a fresh fragrance that actually works nicely in the warmer months of the year. I cannot talk much about performance when it comes to Mocha Moscow Mule so far. It seems to be a little bit on the lighter side, at least from my first impressions. But it's an interesting scent, fresh, slightly boozy, and musky scent. Definitely, though, I would say that this is not safe for blind buying. Definitely try this one first, because it can be maybe not challenging, but maybe not up to the liking of everybody. And it's an interesting fragrance, to be honest. I'm really curious to see how this one will develop with some maceration. And now moving on to the second Paris Corner fragrance featured today, the one that's been actually around for a while, but I just recently got a bottle of, and it's called Acadia Intenso. This fragrance is a clone of Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Again, pretty nice looking presentation. This is the box that the fragrance comes packaged in, and this is the way that the actual bottle looks. The good thing here is that the presentation, the packaging actually has nothing to do with the original fragrance. So at least they're not shamelessly copying the whole presentation apart from the actual scent. Let me show the spray real quick. The cap is actually has a metal coating. It's quite heavy and it's a pretty snug fit. Now the sprayer here is decent, not as good as the other one though. As I said, this fragrance is a clone of Bleu de Chanel Parfum. And actually Paris Corner have done quite a good job with Acadia Intenso, in my opinion. It's very similar to the original fragrance, opens up with a bit of citrusy freshness. You immediately get some of the woodiness of the original fragrance, a hint of spices, and also quite a bit of sweetness, just like the original scent. But here this feels a little bit different in the opening. This feels like a slight twist. Feels maybe a hint more spicy compared to the original fragrance, and definitely the opening to my nose, at least from my first initial wearing. I'm wearing this on my other hand today. This feels a little bit sweeter in the opening compared to Bleu de Chanel Parfum. But on the early dry down, I've had this on my skin for a couple of hours now at this point. On the early dry down, this actually gets very close to Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Carries this very signature mix of the sweetness and the woodiness of the original fragrance that feels kind of creamy, feels very bluish, definitely a very classy, blue scent. And again, I think that especially on the dry down, Paris Corner have done a very good job with Acadia Intenso. This smells very similar to Bleu de Chanel Parfum, and actually I was quite surprised of the quality of Acadia Intenso, and I'm really surprised that not too many people are actually talking about this fragrance, because I think this is one of the better Paris Corner scents that you can currently get, at least from my initial impressions. Very high quality, seems to have pretty decent performance. The original has never been known for being a huge performer, but Acadia Intenso seems to have a quite decent performance, at least so far, and all around the quality here is very nice. And now let's move on to the two fragrances from the brand of Arabiyat Prestige that I'm going to be talking about today. Both are from the Aariz line, and they're called Aariz Intense and Aariz L'Absolu. And I'm going to start with the Absolute Flanker, because this is the one that's more unknown compared to Aariz Intense, which has been around for a while, and people know about this one. Now, this is supposedly a clone of Velvet Tonka from BDK Parfums. But this is a very interesting scent that reminds me of a few other fragrances that I'll be mentioning in a minute. Now, first of all, just a few quick words about the packaging and the presentation. The Arabiyat Prestige line is known for being like a luxurious line of fragrances, and they come really nicely packaged, and the two Aariz fragrances that I'm going to be talking about today make no difference. You get a box that has an outer sleeve. Inside it opens up like this, and it's all around a very nice presentation. And then when it comes to the bottle design, the bottle design is shared across all three members of the Aariz line: the OG Aariz, Aariz Intense, and Aariz L'Absolu. They have a pretty similar bottle design, but with coming in different colors. You get a metallic cap and you get pressurized atomizers. Absolutely fantastic atomizers. And the scent of Aariz L'Absolu, it's a very interesting fragrance that is kind of sweet, actually quite sweet. It's a bit nutty. There's some tobacco in here, there's some powderness, vanillic sweetness. It's a very interesting scent that, again, I won't be comparing to the original one, but I'll compare with a few other fragrances that I have in my collection that smell pretty similar, or to be more precise, in this case I'll be talking about one fragrance. But this has a strong almond note that doesn't feel bitter, it feels kind of powdery. There's a strong tonka bean note in here, a bit of vanillic sweetness. There's a hint of tobacco as well, some spices, some woods, and also maybe even a hint of leather somewhere in the background. It's quite powdery, quite sweet, feels a bit sharp, and it's, in my opinion, a unisex scent that maybe leans a little bit to the feminine side. The one that I'm really sort of comparing it to, the one that this reminds me of, is Al Haramain's Amber Oud Black Edition. It's quite similar. I think they share quite a few of the same notes, but if Amber Oud Black Edition is the masculine version, then you can think of Aariz L'Absolu as the more unisex or slightly feminine leading version of the scent. It feels a little bit more powdery, it has slightly less intense tobacco note compared to Al Haramain Amber Oud Black Edition. Also, Amber Oud Black Edition feels more sweet, whereas Aariz L'Absolu feels a little bit more powdery. But actually, there's a smell, pretty similar to each other. Maybe there's even a hint of something floral in Aariz L'Absolu. It's a very interesting scent that, again, I'm wondering why not many people are talking about, because this smells interesting, and also from my initial impressions from my first wearing, this also seemed to have pretty good performance. I was wearing this yesterday, and I definitely got over 8 hours of performance with quite loud projection in the first at least 2 hours. And moving on to the last fragrance that I'm going to be talking about today, which is Aariz Intense. Now, this fragrance is heavily inspired by Kilian's Angel Share. So we're talking about yet another Angel Share clone, and this time around we're talking about an actual Angel Share clone rather than a twist. Now, again, this also smells like a few other things. I'll be talking about that as well. But again, pretty similar presentation to the other Aariz fragrance featured today, but in a different, color and combination. You still get that great pressurized atomizer. And again, the quality here is absolutely superb. Now, the scent itself, as I said, is cloning Kilian's Angel Share, but again, feels maybe like a slight twist, not a direct clone. The way that this differs is that, at least in my nose, this has a slightly toned down, you know, boozy note, cognac note compared to the original fragrance. You still get a bit of the cognac, but it's slightly toned down. Other than that, very similar. You get all the sweetness from the original fragrance. You get the cinnamon, the spices, the dates, the praline, the vanillic sweetness, and you know, the oats. Very similar, especially on the dry down. Again, lacking just a little bit of the booziness up top. This is this feels to my nose like a mix between you know, the original Angel Share and Latafa Hamra, somewhere in between. It's definitely slightly less sweet than Latafa Hamra and having a boozy note, a stronger boozy note than Latafa Hamra, but again feeling a little bit sweeter than Angel Share and having a little bit less of a boozy note. It's pretty similar to both fragrances, and again, yet another clone of Angel Share with superb quality. Performance-wise, again, I was wearing this yesterday, and it gave me over 8 hours of performance on my first wearing, with again pretty strong projection in the first about 2 hours. So performance-wise, this seems to be quite a strong fragrance. And at the end, a few final words about the 4 fragrances that I featured in today's first impression video. When it comes to the 2 scents from the brand of Paris Corner, Mocha Moscow Mule is an interesting boozy fragrance that feels kind of fresh, kind of spicy, kind of musky, comes really interestingly packaged, but I think this is a fragrance that definitely you must try before you buy, because I don't think it's safe for blind buying. When it comes to Acadia Intenso, I'm really surprised that I'm picking up this fragrance this late, and I'm really surprised that this fragrance doesn't get more talked about, because this is a very, very good inspiration, a very good clone of Bleu de Chanel perfume. When it comes to the 2 scents from Arabiyat Prestige and the Aariz line, Aariz Intense, nothing new scent-wise, a clone of Angel Share. You get that sweet, boozy scent profile of the original fragrance, very likable, perfectly unisex, superb quality, just like any other you know, Arabiyat Prestige fragrance, and so far seems to have pretty decent performance. And when it comes to Aariz Absolu, a very interesting fragrance. Again, I won't be comparing it to the original fragrance, which is from BDK Parfums, and it's called Velvet Tonka, but this is a very interesting, nutty, sweet, slightly tobacco-y, you know, and woody fragrance that feels kind of powdery with a hint of floral touch in here as well. It's a very interesting unisex fragrance that leans to the feminine side a little bit, in my opinion, but has very strong performance, interesting scent profile, and again, top-notch quality. So guys, in today's video I shared my first impressions on 4 scents, 2 from Paris Corner and 2 from Arabiyat Prestige. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.